we're pleased to welcome today Professor of Practice at Auburn University, Jilla Webb, presenting a session titled The Art of Effortless Expression, the Alexander Technique in Music Education. Please join me in welcoming Professor Webb.
So my name is Jilla Webb, and I am Professor of Practice at Commercial Voice and direct one of the music ensembles, the commercial ensembles at Auburn. I'm also a certified Alexander teacher, which is what we're here for today. Do we have students and professors in the crowd today? Students? Great. Professors? Couple? Okay, wonderful. The first question I get asked a lot is, what is the Alexander technique, right? How many have heard of it but have no real clue what it is? Right, exactly. Well, let me start with a quote from FM that has really impacted not only me as a teacher, but as a performer. I'm also a professional singer. I still do gigs and I still travel, not as much now that I'm teaching, but I spent 40 plus years touring the world, and this has changed my life. This has changed my life. So he said, people do not decide their futures. People decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. Does that make sense? Are you resonating with that already? So when we talk about effortless expression, I think the first thing that we have to acknowledge is uncertainty and a lack of self-trust. Why do I start there? Because those things do not stay abstract. Uncertainty and lack of self-trust. I don't know if I can do this. I'm not good enough. I don't know if I can hit that note. You know where that shows up? In the body, right? Then we try to perform. Well, that'll be easy. You're shaking your head no. You've tried this before. It's not easy. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about finding these habits, finding these habitual loops, whether they're mental or physical, and usually they're both, in the body, and learning how to unlock those so that effort turns into effortlessness. When I am asked, as I am regularly, I've tried to figure out an elevator pitch way to say what Alexander technique is. And I think it's about rewiring habits and restoring freedom. Would you like to do that? We have to rewire all of those habits. We have to stop the habitual looping that happens in our minds and in our bodies, and we have to find all of that excessive tension, that over-efforting, and we have to have tools and skills that help us get through that. So today I'm going to introduce you to three concepts from the Alexander technique. The first is primary control, the second is called inhibition, and the third is our relationship to space and the environment, because we don't perform in a vacuum, right? So we have to think about where we are and how that affects us. Hopefully I'll give you some language that will guide you through all of this. And then we're going to do some exercises, so hopefully you can feel some of this stuff, experience it in your own bodies, because that's really when I think you're going to have an understanding and a deep knowing kinesthetically of how this might help you. Okay, so students, uncertainty, fear, thinking you're not good enough, thinking, why am I here? Can I actually do this? Do I have any people that are going into the music industry? What are you studying?
Vocal music ed.
Vocal music ed. Vocal music ed? Great.
Choral conducting.
Choral conducting. Yay! Perfect. So you guys are going to have to teach a lot of different things. How are you going to help your students not feel the same things that you're feeling that block the performance? Are you with me that sometimes you're thinking those things and those things turn into stage fright and real anxiety that can really stop you from giving the performance that you want and know you can give? Does that happen? So you want tools to not only be able to do that for yourselves, but be able to help your students when you begin teaching. These things are all normal, by the way. You're living in a time and growing up in a culture where being wrong feels kind of dangerous, right? Where mistakes are really public because everybody's got a camera. You're shaking your head, yes. And judgment, social media, feels pretty immediate, doesn't it? and it's pretty harsh. So of course this happens. Of course this tensing and this bracing happens. It's a self-protection mechanism that kicks in for you and it kicks in for your students. It's a defense mechanism, but it causes tightening and bracing, and it's your way of staying safe. So on one hand, it's really good for you. It's really great that it can protect you and help you to do what you do. On the other hand, it might be making things like breathing more difficult. Can you take a deep breath when your body's all tense and tight? Singers, vocal people, how are you gonna get that out of your choir if you're teaching, right? If they're all like, I don't know what to do, and they're all locked down and braced. So this is what the Alexander technique is trying to get to. Because these loops that you get into, they become habitual and they become unconscious. You're not aware that you're launching into them most of the time. The real issue here is in that split second of uncertainty and fear, that's when the bracing happens. And if you're on stage and you're trying to sing or you're trying to conduct, it's your first time and your choir's up there, and that moment of fear happens, and you do that, suddenly you've tightened everything down. Singing becomes more difficult, more tense, more effortful, and you push because you're trying to gain some control. When that happens, you start talking to yourself in your head, right? You start creating stories. What are some of the stories? You guys have stories that you say to yourselves? Give me some stories.
Or if I had done this, I wouldn't have done it like that.
Right. Why can't I just do it like that every time? You know, what's wrong with me that I can't just do this? Maybe I shouldn't do this. These are stories. These are stories that you're telling yourselves. And when you start stacking belief upon belief, that's when they start to feel, those stories start to feel real. And they start to feel like concrete. Like, that's just the way it is, and it's never gonna change. Anybody experience that? So when you're going through that mind and body, and Alexander said that mind-body unity, he called it psychophysical unity, mind and body, it's one system. When the mind says something, the body reacts. And sometimes the body reacts and you don't notice it, and then we go, why am I tight? Why am I? So it can go in this loop either way, and it just cycles. So we want to try, by using some of the skills that Alexander brings us, to lessen some of this tightness. We want to titrate down from fight, flight, freeze. We want to come back so that we have some ease and we have some freedom. Because if we don't, we're just going to over-effort, right? You're going to push through. You're going to lock down, you're going to push through. If you keep doing that, what's the risk? What's the risk? Failure.
Editing.
Yes. What else?
Injury.
Injury. Thank you. Yeah, which can be, if you do it long enough and repeat that enough, your craft suffers. Yes? Your coordination becomes discoordinated, dis-ease. Your mobility. We talk about why is mobility important. Breathing requires ribcage mobility, not if you're tight. Your health can be affected. If you're constantly in a state of fight or flight and your body is constantly stressed, that's not good for your health. So we're talking about really the ultimate sustainability of the musician, not only in the career, but as a human. These are things that Alexander Technique addresses head on. But Alexander Technique is not a quick fix. It's like that old saying about the fish, right? I think what Alexander Technique is getting at, and part of the reason I love it so much, is that, like the saying says, teach a person to fish and they can eat for a lifetime. Well, teaching a person to fish doesn't just come the first time you get out in the boat. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot to Alexander Technique. But I think it relates to that. It means a more centered, responsive relationship of the head, neck, and spine. And when I'm saying head, neck, and spine, what did I not say? Alexander Technique is not about posture. It's not a technique that deals with posture. There is no one right place, one right position. It's about freedom, coordination, and choice. So then the question really becomes, how do we undo these habits? As educators and as performers, how do we undo these things? How do we interrupt these patterns, these loops? And how can Alexander technique help us? So that's enough setup, right? Are you in? Have you bought in? Okay, why don't we do some stuff and we'll just let the technique and we'll let your experience speak for itself, okay? This is where I know everybody usually says, put away your phones. Please get out your cell phones. Number one, I said we're gonna talk about primary control. Tell me, show me, point to it on your body where you think or where it feels like your spine and your head connect. Just about everybody's back here, right? Just about it, yeah, everybody's back here. Okay, so get your cell phone out in front of you. What you just told me is that this, my arm is the spine and this is the head. Does that make any sense at all? Right? You have to have all this effort to try and keep your head up. Does that make any sense at all? Yeah, that's what we think. So if our body map tells us that our spine and head are back here, we're already what? We're already tensing these muscles in the back of our head, in the back of our neck. Yeah? Everybody do that. Tense. Oh, how does that feel? Glorious, right? No, release it. Let your head float up. Let your head float up. Oh, so much better. Right? Do it again. Tense, tense, release. Doesn't that feel better? Doesn't that feel better? Where does it make sense that your head and neck actually might, I'll give you a hint, actually might connect? If this is if your cell phone is your head, go ahead, get your heads up there. Now put a finger here. Doesn't it make more sense that you would be able to balance your head in gravity? If the head and spine, look, it's balanced. Amazing. There's your head and spine in gravity, just like that. Now, you're making slight adjustments, yes? Because we're in gravity, and gravity wants to pull us down. We need to maintain against gravity, so we're always negotiating the relationship, the dynamic relationship of the head and spine. Is this making sense? Okay, where is it actually on your body? It is sort of ears. You guys aren't old enough. If I say Terminator, do you know what I'm talking about? If you had Terminator fingers and they could go in and touch, right? You would be able to almost put your fingers behind the nose from about ear level, where the condyles, where this joint is, where the bottom of your head. Everybody shake their head, just a little yes. Now, I don't want you to muscle the yes. We're just letting the head rock on that joint where the head and spine meet. Now, everybody just little no. Don't muscle it. You're feeling the back of the neck contract. Little yes. Can you just roll your head around on the top of that joint, not the neck? Let all those neck muscles release. Let all those neck muscles release so that the head can almost be floaty, buoyant, lighter. Are these words that you're experiencing a little bit? Up in this space above you. Anybody find that? Anybody find a little bit of freedom there? Yeah? What else is changing? What do you notice? You're relaxing. Yeah, it's almost like a, right? Wouldn't a more relaxed demeanor be better to perform through? Here's the thing. This area that we're talking about where the spine meets the bottom of the head, it's also the area where a lot of your cranial nerves come out. So if I do, and of course this is an exaggeration, but we all have tension back here. And notice the head, my head drops back, my chin sort of comes up. And if I really do it, I'm gonna change, you hear what's happening to my voice because I'm compressing my larynx. Now if I do this and you hear the change in my voice, that's a slight adjustment. The first one is gonna damage me as a singer on into my life. The second one is gonna promote ease. It's gonna engage my parasympathetic nervous system, which is gonna help me what? Sympathetic does what? Yeah, it's sympathetic ramps you up, fight or flight. Parasympathetic helps you relax. helps you come down. Again, which place do we want to have? Do we want to be able to access a little bit of that relaxation, a little bit of that parasympathetic? We need some of the sympathetic to stand up here and do what we do. There's no doubt. However, too much of it, and you get stage fright. And you get people who can't get up here. Is all this starting to make sense? Now, the thing that I said at the beginning, it's a relationship between head, neck, and spine. What if we just concentrated on head and neck? Then we'd be singing sort of from right up here. But the fact is that the top of the spine goes from here all the way down to your tailbone. You are a whole integrated spine, torso. You are not just a head and neck. Because when we focus on a part, that's where we go to. Alexander Technique wants to invite us to focus on the whole being. So, as you're sitting there, I would like to invite you to see if you can feel the length of your whole spine, which again starts way up here and it's not back here. Actually, you know what? Let's stand up. Everybody stand up. Let's do this. Most of us in this room said that the head and neck met back here. Okay, so I want you to actually rock back on your heels a little bit and feel what tenses in front of you. What happens? You're going like this, what does that
I
mean?
feel like I'm trying to use these muscles too much to hold myself up.
Right, now you're a singer, right? Breathe. Not fun. Not fun. How's your neck feel? Tight?
Yeah.
Yeah, tight. Can you play a wind instrument effectively like that either? Okay, so now let's come back. Now let's stop that because that feels awful. So now let's think about our center line that goes from here, down here, through the knee, all the way. Now, can you let that head be floaty and bobbly and find your center of gravity? A position, because we're moving human beings in gravity, right? You're not a tree, you're not a sprig of broccoli. What's happening? What are you finding? What's different? What do you notice?
It's relaxing.
It's relaxing, again. What else? Anybody feel like you grew a little bit? Like some weight is off the feet or the hips? Yeah, weird, right? Weird. So this is what studying Alexander Technique does. Teachers, if you take a lesson with a teacher, we may opt to put hands on your head and neck and help you find that balance. So he said it's a dynamic relationship between the head, neck, and spine. His directions were, allow the neck to be free so that your head can move delicately forward and up, almost as if there's a little air bubble in between the top of the spine and the bottom of the head. So we allow the neck to be free. So we release, I don't love the word relax. It's like, oh. Release contracted muscles. What do you do to contracted muscles? And what are contracted muscles? They get what? Smaller and tighter. How do we release these? We let them go back into their natural length. So I invite you, like Alexander did, to allow your neck muscles, that means front and back, to be free. I'm not asking for total freedom, right? It's the first time we're doing this. Can you find 1 or 2% more freedom in your neck? Can you allow 1 or 2% release of neck muscles in your neck that would allow your head to delicately move forward and up, so that you can allow your spine to find its length, so that you can allow the back to widen. Those are the directions he gave. What are you experiencing? Can anybody find 1 or 2% more release? Who's got 1 or 2% more? Yeah? Did it change a little bit? What did it change?
I think just the overall concept of what good posture is in your whole life. I'm a violinist as well, and so the whole thing is opening up and having good posture, and whereas voice is, you have to learn how to release all of that.
Yeah, and notice the language that you use. Language is really important, right? What's the first word you use? I have to hold. Everybody hold yourself up. Is that immediate tension? Oh, stop, that feels awful. We jokingly sometimes say that we're teaching alternative posture. Why is it important for you to find mobility and length of the spine? The spine actually moves. The spine is not just static. As you breathe in, the spine gathers and gets the vertebrae get a little bit closer. And as you exhale, the vertebrae open back up, so it feels like you have some length. Why is that? I want to answer your question that you asked at the beginning. Why is that important to breathing, that we have a whole spine and that it has mobility? Where is the rib cage attached to your body, to your spine? Yeah. So when you breathe, if these are the attachments and your ribs sort of hang like this, when you breathe, they have to be allowed to go like this. But if you don't have any mobility in the spine, and if you're thinking head and neck, push the sound out from here, you're missing the support, again, of the total body, the total organism, the support that happens underneath the diaphragm, not just the diaphragm doing its job. So it's a coordinated effort of the whole system. And this is what Alexander realized. He was doing this pulling down thing with his head. He was a Shakespearean actor, and he was doing recitation. And he found that he kept, and this was in the late 1800s, and he found that he kept losing his voice. And his doctor would say, "Don't speak, and your voice will magically come back." Which is true, right? I mean, if you go on vocal rest, your voice comes back. But if you don't fix what you were doing, it's going to happen again, which is what happened. And he spent 3 years with mirrors surrounding him so that he figured out when he took a breath, he did just that little bit of, he called it downward pull, that of the head compresses the larynx. So we need freedom and we need mobility and we need an access, a balancing point. The start of it is this freedom that we need to start finding with the balancing point of the head and neck, the relationship of the head to the neck on the whole spine. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is a term that he said, inhibition. So everybody get up again. If you are near somebody, maybe that could be your partner. If you're not, maybe you want to find a partner, or you can even try this by yourself. I would suggest get out something like a pen, or, don't drop your phone, because that's going to really cause some stimulus right there. We're going to just drop something, and if you have a partner, one person's going to drop it, and the other one's going to pick it up. You just get to pick it up. Everybody did that? Pretty easy, right? Anybody think about how you did that? How did you bend over? How you do what you do while you're doing it. This is what Alexander is trying to teach us to do. Okay? All right. You can sit back down. We're going to bring this back in a minute. So my friend Christy is leaving northern Michigan where it is negative 12 degrees right now. She had this trip planned. It just happened to be the coldest day of the year. She and her husband are driving to San Diego. So if I said to Christy, "What are you looking forward to on your trip?" She said, "The California state line." I mean, I think we can all understand that. But the thing is, she's got 5 days of driving. There's a ton of experience in those 5 days that if all she's focused on is the state line, she's going to miss, right? There's all sorts of choices to be made. Maybe there's a detour. Maybe there's road construction. Getting out of Michigan, guaranteed there's bad weather. There's all sorts of things that might be challenging, but there's also great conversation with her husband. There's also amazing sunsets and restaurants and road stops that they didn't know existed, where they can go and take photos in front of, beautiful vistas or whatever. Yeah.
It's like a teacher only being focused on retirement instead of thinking of all the things that they can do while they're working with children.
Yeah, it's the process. It's staying in process. We tend to, a lot of times, and I think students especially, they are very goal-oriented, and that's the system that we grow up in. If you just are goal-oriented, you miss all of the other stuff. And here's the thing with inhibition, is that you miss out on actually choosing. Because what did we say about habits in the first place? Most of them are unconscious. You didn't think about how you were using, how your function was. Could I have bent more from the hips? Or did I bend this way and, my back? That's a habit. That's a habit of not thinking about how you're moving. So choice was a big deal to Alexander, and he said that between stimulus and response, there's a moment. There's a moment where we can choose how we want to do something. I call it the moment of freedom, right? If we blow by it, really hard to get back, because then the habit takes over, and then we're like, oh. But we do learn through Alexander skills how to unwind that even when we notice we've gone too far the other way. So the three choices are, you can do it the same way. You can just let the habit take over and you can go, oh, I've been over it, oh, my back. Or you could do something else. You could say, what would happen if I thought Alexander directions? And I freed my neck, let my head go forward and up into this floaty place. Or you don't have to do it. Especially if you notice the habit, it's probably better to start again, in your practice especially. So, inhibition is not really suppressing anything, not a holding back, but it's the ability to stop doing the habitual thing when we feel threatened or uncertain, or that fear, or those stories that creep in. When we feel that, practicing enough times with your teacher or by yourself that you can say, oh, I just noticed that tightening. Is that how I want to do it? Is that how I want to take this breath? Is that how I want to sing that out? Noticing and giving yourself the time, exploring enough with your teachers so that your body has an experience of a different way of being and a different way of doing. Okay. So, now, we'll stand up again. Get your thing that you dropped. Now, what I'd like to do is, if you dropped it the first time, drop it again, let the person pick it up. But the person that's picking it up, please have some choice, agency. I would like to give you some agency of how. Watch if it looks different. Does it look different? Does it feel different to the person who's doing the picking it up? Can you pick it up differently? Was that different? How?
I was very strategic about my movement. I didn't just pick it up.
Yeah.
I stepped forward and listened.
What did your body tell you about picking it up this time so it was good?
That felt better.
Yes! And that's the choice, right? Did it look different that time that you did it? How did it look different?
It did look like she calculated it a lot more.
So it looked more coordinated. Wouldn't more coordinated movement be probably better on stage than just, I have no idea what my body is doing? Or coordinated movement for choir conducting? Wouldn't you want more coordination, right? Thought, choice. Okay, now switch. If you didn't get to pick something up, switch and explore, maybe without choice, maybe with choice.
Just like thinking about it.
And you can, if you're by yourself, you can even explore, how do I sit down? How do I stand up? Because there's a lot of habits when we do that. Okay,
Yeah, and then.
everyone explore. What are you guys finding over here?
My quads hurt when I was.
That you're what?
My quads hurt when I
Are really tight? Yeah. Yeah. So does that mean that, again, your whole system, if your quads are tight, probably it's pulling somewhere else. But now you notice it and you might have some agency about how you bend, which might prevent an injury, which is also a great thing. Might help your back if your back is hurting, right? Because I think performing and teaching and everything that we do, it's about becoming. It's not about being something already, it's about becoming moment to moment to moment to moment. But if we don't stay in those moments, if we don't stay in the process and we're so focused on the California state line, we might miss the becoming that we are doing and the becoming that our students are. So the third one, let's go on to number 3, is space. Because like I said, we don't teach or we don't perform in a vacuum. I am on a stage, but there is space behind me. There's a lot of space around me, a ton of space in front of me. And what I would love to do is think that as I'm standing up here performing, because that's a bit of what it is that I'm inviting the whole room into my space, that I have not forgotten my space, and I am just up here speaking words at you, because that doesn't feel very good. Doesn't feel very good for the performer, doesn't feel very good for the audience member. Yeah. So one of my very favorite teachers, she used to her first lesson would be about the 3 spaces. And this is what I would like us to do. So, as you're sitting there, just go ahead and sit up in your chairs a little. I mean, a good slouch is good every now and then, for sure. For sure. You gotta slouch every now and then. But what I want you to do is, again, think about the length of your spine, because it goes all the way down, almost to where you're sitting on the chair. And I want you to think about the space that is behind you. I want you to think about including the space that is behind you, including the space that is to the side, and including the space that is over your head. And when you're imagining that space that's over your head, can you allow your head on that air bubble to just go up into that space just a little bit more? We're not lifting it up, we're just allowing. Notice the sounds of the room. Notice the way the chair feels. Are you supported? Are your arms on the armrests? And is that a different feel than the cushion of the seat? Are you allowing your back to actually be back on the seat? How does that change? It's the temperature of when you breathe in. How far up does the breath go? When you breathe in through your nose, did you lift your shoulders when you took that? How far down does the breath go? Do you feel your feet solidly on the floor? Do you feel supported by your feet and by the chair? And can you feel that sort of connection to the ground? Now, if you have your eyes closed, that's anyone want to tell me what you're feeling? How has this changed your state or what you're experiencing of your position in space in the room? What do you notice kinesthetically? What do we notice about our bodies? What do we notice about maybe our thoughts? What's going on when we do this space? When you have your 3 spaces, the space from the ground, the connection to the ground, the space to the sides behind you, and the space over your head.
It's kind of like meditation.
It is, like relaxed,
Peaceful.
peaceful. Do you feel like you've opened up a little bit? Has any part of your awareness or how you feel like you are just sitting in your space, have you taken up more space? Again, if I perform, right, I can perform like this. I can sing. Am I taking up space? I could also perform and sing like this, and that's changed. My voice has changed. My eyes have changed. My face has changed. I didn't really change much of anything else except look a little bit, but I'm including the space that's around me. The space below me, the space to the side of the back. Dare I use the word embodied? Does that resonate? Are you in your body? Are you experiencing your body now in a different way than you were when you walked in here? Yeah? How is this different, and how might this affect a performance the way you're feeling now as opposed to the way you came in? Anybody?
It helps you connect to the audience better and you join together with them in a common experience.
So beautifully said. Can Alexander teacher? That's beautiful, yes.
It was calming, and so then I feel like you could develop more expression because of that.
And we're talking about effortless expression, right? It's the locking down, it's that over exciting, it's going from fight flight to freeze. We just lock it down, we lock down expression, and we can't do it. Okay, now, one more thing to do, just because my time is wrapping up here. What I would love it if you do is get your cell phones back out and just go ahead and Google something about Alexander technique and music, something that you think might help you. My organization is Alexander Technique International. There's a bunch of stuff, so I just want you to have some information. Okay, oops, I lied. Stop scrolling. What happened to your bodies and your awareness? Did you immediately just, where'd you go? Where'd you go? Habit, this thing, habit. It pulls us in, and we lose our sense of embodiment, we lose our sense, and that's what we're doing. It's not 24/7, but it's a lot that we're on these things, these computers, these screens. We're not practicing space, environment. We're not practicing including that. And I'll tell you what, learning it in a classroom, teachers, when your students come in, that's one type of space. But then you add, oh, hey, by the way, I'm going to kick you out and you're going to be on this big stage. and you're gonna have to perform in front of lights, a quiet room, and everyone else is staring at you. That's a whole nother kind of environment that they need to be able to access these skills of staying aware of environment while you are performing. It's another skill that we can teach. Everybody surprised that your environment just went right away as soon as you did that? Sorry, that was mean. That was mean of me. All right, so we talked about primary control, we've talked about inhibition, and we've talked about how space and environment can really change a performance or the way that we practice or the way that we do anything in a performative space, right? So I just want to thank everybody for coming in today. I know it's after lunch. Sometimes that's a hard time to go listen to something. So thank you for your willingness to explore all of this with me. Thank you for having me speak here at the conference this year. And I just want to leave you with one more quote from Alexander. He said, "There is no such thing as a right position, but there is such thing as a right direction." Stop locking yourselves down, find direction, and have a great day. And let me know if you have any questions, I'll be around. So, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you all.